Ciao everyone, it's Marchettino and today I'm telling you 5 reasons to love and hate the Ferrari 355. As you know, I'm the owner of this gorgeous 1997 Ferrari 355 GTS since more than 1 year. And what can I say is, it's unreal. It's a dream for me being able to own a Ferrari like this, wake up every day and use it. It's simply amazing. But as you know, owning a car like this, it's not always positive. It has good things, but also negative sides. So today, we're gonna talk about the pros and cons about owning a Ferrari 355. The soundtrack plays a key role in every sport car. So the first thing that will make you fall in love with the Ferrari 355 is this. Just like the name says, 355, this is a natural aspirated V8 3.5 liter with 5 valves per cylinder. The power is not that impressive for today's standard, 380 horsepower, 363 Nm of torque, but the soundtrack, my goodness. I have street piped my Ferrari and every time it's like driving a road legal Formula 1 car. Today's Ferraris have an insane amount of power, they're super efficient, but when it comes to the twin turbocharged ones, well guys, the sound that this car makes is a lot better. There's nothing compared to the modern V8 powered Ferraris. Every single time I start this engine, it's impossible not to smile like an idiot. So later we're gonna talk about also the negative things about this car, but trust me, you're gonna buy this car for the sound alone. It's simply shivering. The second thing that will make you fall in love with the Ferrari 355 is the driving experience. As I said, the amount of power is not that crazy for today's standard. We can say that this car is still relatively fast, even though most modern hatches are gonna beat that. But honestly, who cares? Because it's not just about the performance. I think it's also about the sensations, the emotions that a car is able to convey to the driver. And well, this car, the driving experience that it's able to offer, I think it's simply priceless. Listen to that. The 6-speed manual transmission, the lack of electronics. I mean, here you just have the ABS that you can actually turn off. Once you step in the driver's seat and start to drive this car, it's simply amazing. I've owned faster cars, but honestly, I'm not disappointed at all about this car because I think so far it's the most exciting and emotional car I have ever owned. And also, being able to drive it on a sunny day like this with the roof down, I mean, the roof is just at home, it's not down actually. Especially on summer times, the driving experience is simply sensational. What about the third reason to love the 355? This car is not just amazing to hear, but also to look at. I mean, how can you not love this shape? You can tell that this car was designed by Pininfarina. I'm afraid that today's Ferraris, they're not elegant and classic like the ones shaped by Pininfarina. In fact, I think that this car, in terms of design, this is already a classic to me. And also, how can you not love the pop-up headlights? Let's make pop-up headlights great again. And also, just look at this smooth rear wing embodied in the back of the car. How can you not love it? And also, one of my favorite elements of this car is this. This rounded glass, it's simply gorgeous. And just in case if this breaks down, I don't even want to know the cost. This is stupidly expensive. So it sounds raw, it looks classic, It drives amazing with a lack of electronics. We can say that the 355 is one of the very last old school Ferraris. In fact, I'm not that surprised to see that on the market the request for 355 is increasing, same as the prices, because people are starting to realize that this car is the very last model before the arrival of the Ferrari 360. That basically, with the new millennium, Ferrari wanted to make a completely new car, become even more technological, and this means that the more we go on, the more the cars are filtered, they have more electronics, and this means that the real drivers, the enthusiasts, want to look for cars that may not be the quickest ones, but they can be the most rewarding ones in terms of driving experience. And it makes me also a bit sad thinking that the day I will sell this car, I think I won't be able to get another Ferrari with a 6-speed manual, because basically this one and the 360, if you want a V8 powered Ferrari, I think actually they are the cheapest ones. I don't know how long, because as I said, most Ferraris with a manual transmission are becoming quite expensive. So maybe if I sell this car, I'm gonna go for another Ferrari, but with the F1 transmission. Anyway, as long as I have this car, I will enjoy it for sure. Another reason that will make you love the Ferrari 355 are the running costs, because at least here in Italy, owning a supercar, a sports car in general, it's quite expensive. But if the car starts to get a little bit aged, well, that's another story, because the classical costs like the insurance and the annual car tax may be quite cheap. For example, this car in Italy being more than 20 years old, here we don't have the so-called super bollo, which is a crazy annual car tax. We have just the standard road tax, which basically on this car, being historic, it's 50% less, which means that every year I pay about 600 euros. It's the same for the insurance, because if the car has an historic interest, you can get also a good quote from your insurance. And every year for the insurance, I pay another 600 euros. So basically, a fixed price of about 1,200 euros every year to own a Ferrari. It's not that bad. Right guys, I told you a couple of reasons to love and buy immediately a Ferrari 355, but of course, every car is not perfect, so now I'm gonna tell you a couple of things that I don't like about this car very much. So as I said at the beginning, it's amazing to drive. You will want to drive this car all day long, but the problem is that being a plus 20 years old Ferrari, you have to be very careful. First thing I did when I bought this car was to buy a new fire extinguisher to fit on the passenger seat. Prior to this car, I had a BMW M3 E92, and I cannot drive this car like I did with the M3. This car is more fragile. You can drive it fast, but you have to drive it with respect. In fact, most of the time I keep one eye on the road and the other one on the temperature of the engine oil, because if you push it very much, the temperature raises it very quickly. If you have a car like this, you don't have to think to drive it like a modern sports car or supercar. It has some good limits that when you start to drive it, you can find very quickly. When I decided to buy a Ferrari 355, I realized immediately that it would have been very hard to find the right one, because a lot of them don't come with the papers, documents, a proper and full service history, possibly always done at Ferrari. So on the market, it's very hard to find Ferrari 355 in a very good shape. I'm afraid on the market there's lots of second-hand cars that don't have a clear history, they have a fake mileage, they've been crashed. So if you wanna find a car like this in many conditions, never crashed, always serviced at Ferrari, it's gonna be very tough. Also, sometimes I hear people complain about their car saying, yeah, my car is rubbish, it breaks down all the time. And then you find out that he bought the car second hand. So it's not always about reliability issues of the car, it's about how the car has been treated by the former owners. So guys, if you're looking for a Ferrari 355 in a good shape, good luck. You must find a car like this in a good shape, not just because, just in case something breaks down, it may be expensive, but if you want to find some spare parts, this might be a problem, because as you know, I'm restoring the interior. I had to buy a new trim of the radio, a new clock, this plastic, and also the button to open the fuel cap, Ferrari wasn't able to provide me these parts, so I had to buy them through friends and connections. Finding spare parts for a plus 20 years old Ferrari, it's not that easy, so if you want to buy a car like this, just make sure to have the right friends and connections, because you never know. Well, that's not all, guys, because if you're planning to buy your right Ferrari 355, make sure that the interior is in a good shape, because most Ferrari 355 need a proper full interior detailing, and this because the build quality of the plastics is not that good. Ferrari had this problem for so many years. They used some kind of cheap plastics that doesn't last over the time. So basically, if you keep the car under the sunlight for such a long time, all the plastics tend to be worn and sticky, and that's not very pleasant, considering that on the interior of the 355 it's quite analog. There's so many buttons to play with. You're gonna need to spend some money for a full detailing. Let's open the engine bay one more time to talk about the last thing that I find annoying on this car. The headers of the 355 are a known weak point, because back in the days Ferrari built this car with the ANSA headers. I think that most 355 on the market need brand new headers, and that's gonna cost you a cool 5,000 euros. So basically the stock headers doesn't last over the time, so they're gonna crack, and I don't think you wanna drive a car like this, especially on the red line with broken headers. That may lead into a very expensive problem. So if you're thinking to buy a car like this, you're gonna have a great time, but also keep in mind that this car has some defects that will be inevitably expensive for your ownership. Anyway, guys, as I said at the beginning of the video, you just have to turn the key on, hear the engine shout over the red line, and you're gonna have a great time. You forget about all the negative things about this car. It's like a therapy. Whenever I drive this car, I always have a big smile and I have a hell of a great time. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more. And as always, thanks for watching. Ciao!